Let's dive into the enigmatic world of Tartaria. This is the ultimate Tartaria Iceberg explained. What they don't want you to know, we'll be journeying through 9 layers, each one peeling back more of this alleged lost global civilization, a world that some believe has been deliberately erased from our history books. So let's begin our descent, starting with Tier 1. The surface. These are the points of entry for many who first stumble upon the idea of Tartaria. The most commonly discussed observations that spark the initial curiosity are the things that make you pause and wonder if there's more to the story we've been told. First up on our surface layer, we have Grand Tartary on old maps. If you look at maps from the 16th, 17th, even well into the 18th centuries, you'll often find this vast territory, stretching across what is now parts of Russia, Central Asia, and even touching China, clearly labeled Tartary or Grandi Tartary. Supporters of the Tartaria theory point to this as primary evidence of a once massive, unified empire, or at least a significant civilization, far larger and more influential than mainstream history currently acknowledges. They question, why would such a prominent feature on so many historical maps seemingly vanish from modern historical narratives and global consciousness? Was it simply renamed? Or was it something more, something deliberately obscured? Next, we encounter the often unsettling stories surrounding orphan trains and incubator babies. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, particularly in the United States, hundreds of thousands of orphaned or abandoned children were transported by train from crowded eastern cities to new homes often in the rural Midwest. This is a documented historical fact, however. The Tartaria narrative often questions the sheer number of these orphans. Where did they all come from so suddenly? Some theorists suggest they might be the survivors of a recent cataclysm or societal collapse that befell Tartaria, or perhaps remnants of a much larger population now displaced. Similarly, early infant incubators, prominently displayed at world's fairs around the turn of the 20th century, sometimes with actual live babies in them as exhibits, are viewed with suspicion instead of purely medical marvels. Some see them as something more, perhaps a technology used for repopulation efforts after a disaster, or even a misunderstood Tartarian technology being phased out or repurposed. The questions linger. What was the true scale of this phenomenon? Star forts and the ubiquitous neoclassical architecture found across the globe. Star forts, these incredibly complex, geometrically precise fortifications, many supposedly built centuries ago. Their design often features bastions and ravelins perfectly angled for defense, or so the official story goes. Their sheer scale and design sophistication are often pointed to as evidence of an advanced, globally connected civilization. Why are they everywhere from Europe to the Americas to Asia, and why do many seem so similar in design, almost as if built from a common blueprint? Some also question if their design was purely for cannon defense, or if they served another purpose, perhaps related to energy or resonance. Alongside these forts, the grand neoclassical buildings, with their towering columns, intricate stonework, ornate details, and often oversized doors and windows, are also claimed as Tartarian remnants. These structures are found in almost every major city, and many smaller towns too, all built in a remarkably similar style. Theorists ask, how could such sophisticated and resource-intensive buildings be constructed so widely and so similarly by supposedly less advanced societies, or in such short time frames? Could they be inherited structures from a previous, more advanced age? A very prominent piece of surface-level Tartaria theory is the mud flood evidence. This refers to the widespread observation of older buildings around the world that appear to have their ground floors, or even multiple lower stories, buried beneath the current street level. You'll see windows at pavement level, doors that seemingly lead straight into the earth, and archways half buried. Proponents of the mud flood theory suggest that a global cataclysmic mud flood event, or perhaps a series of such events, occurred relatively recently, possibly in the 19th century, burying the original ground level of a previous worldwide civilization. That civilization, they claim, was Tartaria. They argue that our modern cities were often built directly on top of these buried Tartarian foundations, and that the evidence is right beneath our feet. Finally, for Tier 1, we have the spectacle of world's fairs. These massive international expositions held in the late 19th and early 20th centuries showcased incredible, often temporary, palaces, towering structures, and supposed technological marvels of the age. The Tartaria theory often posits that these spheres weren't entirely built from scratch in the astonishingly short timeframes claimed, but were rather existing Tartarian cities or complexes, being showcased one last time before being systematically dismantled, or that the advanced technology displayed was actually misunderstood or repurposed Tartarian tech, being presented as new inventions. The sheer scale of these spheres, the grandeur of the architecture supposedly erected for just a few months, and then the rapid demolition, all fuel suspicion. Were they hiding something in plain sight, or perhaps clearing away the last visible vestiges of a forgotten golden age before the new narrative took hold? First point in Tier 2 is the intriguing subject of oversized doors and alleged giant human skeletons, many old world structures, the same ones we discussed in Tier 1 with their neoclassical design, often feature doors and entryways of enormous proportions, far larger than necessary for an average-sized human. Tartaria proponents ask, why build them so large? Was it simply for grandeur? Or were these structures built by or for beings of a much larger stature? This leads directly to the persistent rumors and alleged discoveries of giant human skeletons. Accounts of these finds appear in old newspaper articles, local legends, and sometimes even in more formal reports. Though they are often dismissed or debunked by mainstream science, the theory suggests that giants, or at least a race of significantly larger humans, were part of the Tartarian civilization, and that evidence of their existence, like these oversized doors and the alleged skeletal remains, has been systematically suppressed or explained away. We delve into the fascinating concept of atmospheric electricity and free energy devices, look closely at the architecture of many old world buildings, particularly the spires on cathedrals, the domes on government buildings, and the intricate metalwork often found on their roofs. Tartaria theorists propose these weren't merely decorative. They suggest these architectural features were actually components of a sophisticated system for harnessing atmospheric electricity, a form of free energy that powered Tartarian cities, the spires acting as antennas, the domes as accumulators or resonators. They point to figures like Nikola Tesla, whose experiments with wireless energy transmission are well known, and suggest he was perhaps rediscovering or attempting to replicate lost Tartarian technology. The idea is that a clean, abundant energy source was once widely available and has since been suppressed in favor of our current, more controlled energy systems. The mystery of impossible old world photographs, many photographs from the 19th century and even earlier daguerreotypes, show cityscapes and buildings with astonishing clarity and detail for their supposed era. The structures often appear incredibly well built, sometimes on a massive scale. One common observation is the eerie emptiness of the streets in many of these old city photographs, even in what should be bustling urban centers. This has led some to speculate that these photos were taken after a cataclysm that depopulated these cities, or that the cities themselves were inherited, not built by the people present at the time of the photograph. Furthermore, the sheer scale and complexity of the construction depicted, often with limited visible signs of the labor force or construction equipment that would be required, raises questions about how these structures were really built, and by whom. Were these photos capturing the remnants of a far more advanced civilization, Tartaria? The melted buildings and vitrified ruins in various locations around the world. There are old buildings, castles, or ruins where the stonework shows peculiar signs of damage. Some stones appear to have been subjected to intense heat, causing them to melt, drupu, or even vitrify, turning into a glass-like substance. Tartaria theorists propose that these are not always the result of conventional fires or known geological processes. They suggest these could be evidence of advanced weaponry, perhaps energy weapons, used during the downfall or destruction of Tartarian cities. The idea is that some cataclysmic event, or deliberate attack, involved forces capable of melting stone on a massive scale, leaving behind these strange, unsettling remnants, evidence, they say, of a forgotten war or disaster that reshaped the world. Finally, for Tier 2, we explore the questions surrounding the Paris Catacombs and other large ossuaries. The Paris Catacombs, a vast network of tunnels beneath the city, famously lined with the skulls and bones of an estimated 6 million people. The official explanation is that these bones were moved from overcrowded cemeteries in the late 18th and 19th centuries. However, within the Tartaria narrative, questions arise about the true origin of such a colossal number of human remains. and why they were arranged in such a particular, almost ritualistic way in some areas. Some theorists speculate that these ossuaries, not just in Paris but elsewhere, might contain the victims of the cataclysms that supposedly destroyed Tartaria, or perhaps represent a mass collection of remains from a much larger, earlier population than is commonly acknowledged. The scale itself is what fuels the speculation. Was it just about clearing cemeteries? Or is there a deeper, more hidden story behind these cities of the dead? First exploration in Tier 3 concerns ether physics and etheric energy before the rise of modern physics. The concept of a luminiferous aether was a widely accepted scientific theory, a ubiquitous medium that filled all of space. Thought to be necessary for the propagation of light and other electromagnetic forces, Tartaria theorists proposed that this aether wasn't just a passive medium, but an active source of limitless energy. They suggest that Tartarians understood ether physics far more deeply than we do today, and had technologies to tap directly into this etheric field, drawing power from the very fabric of the cosmos. This ties back to the idea of atmospheric electricity from Tier 2, but expands it, suggesting that it wasn't just about lightning, but about a fundamental energy source that permeated everything, an energy source that has since been deliberately forgotten or suppressed. The fascinating realm of sound healing, cymatics and resonant frequencies. Cymatics is the study of visible sound and vibration. It demonstrates how sound frequencies can create complex and beautiful geometric patterns in matter. Tartaria proponents believe this was not just a curiosity for Tartarians, but a foundational science. They theorize that Tartarians used precise sound frequencies and resonance for a multitude of purposes: for healing the body, for levitating and moving massive stones in construction, even for influencing consciousness or creating energy fields. Think of the incredible acoustic properties of some ancient structures, or the persistent legends of sound being used to build megalithic sites. Could Tartarians have mastered the art of sonic engineering to a degree we can barely imagine, shaping their world through the power of vibration? The Mercury Vortex entry and advanced airships. While mainstream history acknowledges early airships like Zeppelins, some Tartaria theories propose that Tartarians possessed far more advanced aerial craft, capable of silent flight, and perhaps even powered by unconventional means. One such proposed technology is the Mercury Vortex engine. Theories suggest that by spinning Mercury at high speeds within a specific toroidal or annular chamber, immense lift or propulsive forces could be generated, possibly even manipulating gravity or etheric fields. These advanced airships, some speculate, allowed for easy global travel and trade within the Tartarian Empire, connecting their cities across continents and oceans. Long before our own age of flight, evidence for such craft is often sought in obscure patents, anomalous sightings, or interpretations of ancient myths describing flying machines. The various Tartarian races, including giants, red-haired people, and those with elongated skulls, the idea that Tartaria was a homogeneous civilization is challenged by theories proposing it was a melting pot of various human, and perhaps even non-human or semi-human, races. We've already touched on giants, but the theories extend to other groups. For instance, the recurring motif of red-haired individuals in old legends, or discovered in some ancient burials in unusual locations, sometimes associated with giant skeletons. Similarly, the phenomenon of elongated skulls, found in various parts of the world from Peru to Egypt to parts of Europe, is sometimes linked to Tartaria or these distinct races, genetically modified humans, or a result of cranial deformation practices with a forgotten meaning. The theory suggests a far more diverse and complex population in the Old World. And the advanced metallurgy and geopolymer, concrete, the quality, durability, and sometimes the sheer scale of metalwork found in older structures or artifacts often raises questions. Could ancient civilizations, including Tartaria, have possessed metallurgical knowledge and techniques that rival or even surpass our own? Alongside advanced metalwork, the concept of geopolymer, concrete, is frequently discussed. This is the idea that many ancient megalithic structures weren't built by quarrying and lifting impossibly huge stones, but by casting them in place using a sophisticated form of concrete, or reconstituted stone, made from readily available minerals. This could explain the incredible precision of some ancient stonework, the lack of tool marks, and how such massive blocks were fitted together so perfectly. If Tartarians had mastered geopolymer technology, it would revolutionize our understanding of their construction capabilities. the concept of phantom time, or missing and inserted history. The phantom time hypothesis, originally proposed by Heribert Illig, suggests that a significant period of the early Middle Ages, roughly 3 centuries, was entirely fabricated, essentially that events and figures from this era never actually existed, and our current year is actually much earlier than we think. While Illig's original theory focused on the Middle Ages, Tartaria proponents often expand this idea, suggesting that various periods of history might have been altered, centuries added or removed, to obscure the timeline of Tartaria's existence and its eventual demise. If true, this would mean our understanding of historical progression is fundamentally flawed, allowing for a grand civilization like Tartaria to be written out of the past, or for its remnants to be misattributed to later or earlier, less advanced cultures. A religious order of the Catholic Church founded in the 16th century is known for its significant contributions to education, science, and exploration across the globe. However, within some Tartaria theories and broader conspiracy circles, the Jesuits are often portrayed as key players in a long-term agenda to control information and rewrite history. Their global network of scholars and institutions, it's argued, gave them the unique capacity to collect, alter, or suppress historical documents on a massive scale. The motive, according to these theories, could be to establish a particular narrative of human history that aligns with certain religious or political agendas, a narrative that conveniently omits or demonizes a globally advanced, possibly Aether-powered civilization like Tartaria. The cataclysms, such as the Tunguska event or Great City Fires, as deliberate acts of destruction, the Tunguska event of 1908 in Siberia, a massive explosion that flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of forest, is officially attributed to a meteor or comet airburst, but its exact nature remains debated. Tartaria theories often re-examine such cataclysms, including major historical city fires, or even large earthquakes in suspicious locations or timings, not as natural disasters or accidents, but as targeted attacks. The idea is that these events were part of a coordinated effort to destroy Tartarian infrastructure, eliminate its population centers, and erase its physical presence from the Earth, perhaps using advanced weaponry that was then hidden, or even esoteric means. The mud flood itself is sometimes seen in this light, not just a natural event, but a consequence of such a cataclysm, or a deliberate weaponized flood. The invention of poverty and scarcity. If Tartaria was a civilization with access to free energy, advanced construction techniques, and potentially a different societal structure, proponents argue that concepts like widespread poverty and resource scarcity, as we know them, might not have existed, or at least not to the same extent. The theory suggests that after the fall or reset of Tartaria, the new controllers of the world deliberately engineered systems based on scarcity, competition, and dependency. This would ensure control over the surviving populations and prevent the re-emergence of a Tartarian-like society based on abundance and freedom. Poverty and the struggle for basic necessities, in this view, are not inevitable conditions, but rather tools of control, implemented after the destruction of a more equitable and advanced global order. The foundling hospitals and alleged repopulation programs. Foundling hospitals, institutions established to care for abandoned children or foundlings, became prominent in Europe and elsewhere from the 18th century onwards. Historically, they are seen as charitable efforts to deal with social problems like illegitimacy and infant abandonment. However, within the Tartaria narrative that posits a recent cataclysm and depopulation, these institutions take on a different light. Some theorists suggest these foundling hospitals, along with the orphan trains we mentioned earlier, were part of a massive, coordinated effort to gather, indoctrinate, and redistribute the surviving children of a lost world. The idea is that these children, their memories of the past erased or their origins unknown, would be raised within the new historical narrative, forming the basis of a repopulated society, unaware of the world that came before, or the true circumstances of their upbringing. They were the blank slates upon which a new history could be written. The parasitic elite archons, or controlling bloodlines. This theory posits that humanity is, and has been for a very long time, under the influence or direct control of a small secretive group, often referred to as a parasitic elite. These entities or families, some theories suggest, operate from behind the scenes, manipulating governments, financial systems, and historical narratives to maintain their power and feed off humanity's energy or resources. The destruction of an advanced, free energy civilization like Tartaria would be a prime objective for such a group, to keep humanity in a state of dependency and control. Some connect this elite to Gnostic concepts of the archons, lesser deities or cosmic rulers, who seek to keep humanity trapped in a material illusion. The idea is that these forces are not merely human, but something older, perhaps interdimensional, with a vested interest in suppressing human potential and spiritual awakening. The connections to Atlantis, Lemuria, and Hyperborea, the legend of Atlantis, the advanced island civilization described by Plato that sank beneath the waves, is well known, less known perhaps, but equally potent in esoteric lore, are Lemuria or Mu, a supposed lost continent in the Pacific or Indian Ocean, and Hyperborea, a mythical land in the far north, home to a god-like race. Tartaria theorists often propose that Tartaria was not an isolated phenomenon, but perhaps a successor civilization to these even older, legendary cultures, or that it coexisted with remnants of them, or even that Tartaria was one of these civilizations under a different name, or in a later epoch. The idea is that there's a cyclical pattern of rising and falling advanced civilizations on Earth, with knowledge being lost and rediscovered. Tartaria, in this view, is just one more chapter in this long, hidden history of humanity's forgotten golden ages and their subsequent destructions. The Vatican and its alleged secret archives and knowledge suppression. The Vatican City, the heart of the Roman Catholic Church, is home to one of the oldest and most extensive libraries and archives in the world, including the famously named Vatican Secret Archives, which are not entirely secret, but are private within Tartaria theories and many other conspiracy narratives. The Vatican is often seen as a central repository of suppressed knowledge, a place where ancient texts, maps, artifacts, and historical records that contradict the official narrative, including evidence of Tartaria and other lost civilizations, are carefully hidden away from public scrutiny. The motive, it's argued, is to maintain the Church's authority and its version of history, and to prevent humanity from accessing knowledge that could challenge existing power structures or religious doctrines. The Vatican, in this light, becomes a gatekeeper of humanity's true past. The Freemasons. Freemasonry, with its ancient roots, elaborate rituals, and influential membership throughout history, is a frequent subject of speculation and theories about hidden power and knowledge. In the context of Tartaria, secret societies like the Freemasons, or the Illuminati, historical or legendary, are often cast in one of two roles. Either they are the inheritors of lost Tartarian knowledge, secretly preserving it and passing it down through generations within their initiated ranks, or they are part of the controlling apparatus, actively involved in suppressing that knowledge from the wider public, or even orchestrating the reset. The ambiguity lies in their secrecy. Their symbolism is seen by some as clues to lost truths, by others as signs of hidden control. Regardless, they are considered key players in the drama of Tartaria's disappearance and the management of historical narratives. The Old World Order versus the New World Order. Many theories about a New World Order describe a supposed clandestine effort by a powerful global elite to create a totalitarian one-world government. The Tartaria narrative often reframes this by positing that Tartaria itself represented a benevolent, Old World Order, a globally connected civilization based on principles of harmony, free energy, and advanced understanding. This Old World Order, it's argued, was deliberately destroyed and replaced by the current system, which is either the precursor to or the early stages of the very New World Order that many fear. The struggle, then, is seen not just as uncovering a lost past, but as understanding the forces that dismantled that past and the agenda they are pursuing for the future. A future that looks very different from the alleged promise of Tartaria. The weather modification. The idea that ancient civilizations could influence the weather is not new. Rain dances and weather deities are common in folklore, but Tartaria theorists take this much further, suggesting Tartarians had a sophisticated understanding of atmospheric dynamics and the technology to actively modify weather patterns on a regional or even global scale. This could range from ensuring favorable climates for agriculture to creating defensive weather barriers, or even, more speculatively, terraforming entire regions, making inhospitable areas habitable, or vice versa. If they could control the weather, they could shape their world in ways we can only dream of. Some point to unusually fertile regions, strange weather anomalies, or even vast man-made looking landscape features as potential evidence of such capabilities, a lost science of planetary engineering. If Tartarians had mastered Aether physics and resonant frequencies to the extent some theories propose, could their understanding have extended to the very fabric of space-time itself? This leads to speculation about Tartarian portals or stargates, devices or specific geographical locations that could allow for instantaneous travel across vast distances on Earth, or perhaps even further. Some theories suggest these portals weren't limited to terrestrial travel, but could have allowed access to other dimensions, other realms of existence, or even other planets. This would explain the seemingly global nature of their civilization, and perhaps even hint at off-world connections or origins. The idea of ancient stargates is a staple of science fiction. But what if, for Tartarians, it was science fact? The genetic manipulation, mythologies from around the world are filled with descriptions of chimeras, hybrid creatures combining features of different animals, or even humans and animals. While mainstream interpretation sees these as purely symbolic or imaginative, though, some Tartaria theorists wonder if they could be distorted memories of actual genetic engineering. Could the Tartarians, with their supposed advanced understanding of life sciences, have possessed the ability to manipulate genetics, creating new species or modifying existing ones, including humans? This could tie into the theories of different Tartarian races we discussed earlier. Perhaps some of these were not naturally evolved, but engineered for specific purposes or as part of experiments. The ethical implications are profound, but within the context of a highly advanced lost civilization. The crystal technology. Crystals have long been associated with healing energy and esoteric properties. Tartaria theories often elevate crystals to a central role in their technology, not just as pretty stones, but as sophisticated components in advanced devices. It's proposed that Tartarians could grow, cut, and tune crystals to precise frequencies, using them for communication over vast distances, for energy generation and storage, for healing, or even as components in their computational or consciousness-altering technologies. Some theories even suggest a global crystal energy grid, with major Tartarian sites and megalithic structures acting as nodes in this network, distributing free, clean energy worldwide. A technology that, if rediscovered, would transform our planet. The anti-gravity. The construction of many ancient megalithic sites, with their impossibly large and precisely fitted stones, has always baffled engineers and historians. How were these colossal blocks quarried, transported, and lifted into place with such precision, while conventional explanations involve immense manpower and rudimentary tools? Tartaria theorists often propose the use of anti-gravity or levitation technology. This could have been achieved through various means: mastery of sonic levitation, manipulation of etheric fields, or devices that could nullify or reverse gravitational effects. If Tartarians could indeed levitate massive objects, it would explain not only their monumental architecture, but also potentially their advanced airships and other forms of transport. It represents a fundamental mastery over the forces of nature, far beyond our current capabilities. The simulation theory. The idea that our perceived reality might be a sophisticated simulation, a kind of cosmic computer program, has gained traction in philosophical circles and even among some scientists. Within the Tartaria narrative, this concept is sometimes invoked to explain the sheer scale of the historical deception. If our reality is a construct, then rewriting history, erasing a global civilization like Tartaria, and implanting false memories or narratives becomes far more feasible. Perhaps Tartaria existed in a previous iteration of the simulation, or in a base reality that was then overlaid with our current, more controlled world. The mud flood, the resets, all could be seen as massive system updates or patches designed to keep the inhabitants unaware of the true nature of their existence and the world that came before. The Akashic Records, a term from Theosophy, refer to a supposed compendium of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future, believed to be encoded in a non-physical plane of existence, known as the Etheric plane. Tartaria theorists sometimes propose that knowledge of Tartaria, its history, its technologies, and its wisdom, is not entirely lost, but still exists within these Akashic records, accessible to those with the ability to tap into them through meditation, psychic means, or altered states of consciousness. This offers a non-physical path to uncovering the truth bypassing the alleged historical suppression. It suggests that the story of Tartaria is not just buried under mud, but also imprinted on the very fabric of consciousness, waiting to be rediscovered. The nature of consciousness. Modern science still grapples with the hard problem of consciousness, what it is, where it comes from, and its relationship to the physical brain. Theories within the Tartaria narrative suggest that Tartarians had a far more advanced and holistic understanding of consciousness and the soul. They might have viewed consciousness not as an emergent property of the brain, but as fundamental to reality, perhaps even as the source from which reality manifests. Their technologies or their architecture and their societal structures might have been designed to enhance consciousness, facilitate spiritual evolution, and harmonize the individual soul with the cosmos, a stark contrast to a modern world often seen as distracting from, or even suppressing, deeper spiritual awareness. Astral projection. If Tartarians had a profound understanding of consciousness, it's proposed they also cultivated and widely utilized psychic abilities. Astral projection. The ability to have an out-of-body experience and travel in a subtle body, remote viewing, the capacity to perceive distant or unseen targets using extrasensory perception, telepathy, precognition. These might not have been rare or mystical gifts, but developed skills within Tartarian society. Such abilities would have had immense practical applications in communication, exploration, defense, and perhaps even in operating some of their more advanced consciousness interactive technologies. A world where the mind itself was a powerful tool. Lee lines. Earth energy grids and the sacred geometry of Tartarian utilization. Lee lines are hypothetical alignments of ancient sites, megaliths, and natural landscape features proposed by Alfred Watkins in the 1920s, while mainstream archaeology often dismisses them as chance alignments. Esoteric theories see them as pathways of subtle earth energy. Tartaria theorists often integrate Lee lines and earth energy grids into their understanding of Tartarian infrastructure, suggesting that Tartarian cities, temples, and star forts were deliberately built on these energetic hotspots or at the intersections of these lines to harness, amplify, or modulate these natural earth energies. The precise geometric layout of many ancient sites, often incorporating principles of sacred geometry, is seen as further evidence of this sophisticated understanding. Tartarians, it's proposed, knew how to work in harmony with the Earth's subtle energies, using its patterns and flows to enhance their technology, their well-being, and their spiritual connection to the planet. Extraterrestrial involvement. If Tartaria possessed technologies and knowledge far beyond what mainstream history allows, where did it originate? One common theory in the deeper layers is that Tartarian civilization was not purely terrestrial, or, at least, was heavily influenced, seeded, or even directly established by extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings. These advanced off-world benefactors could have provided the initial spark for Tartaria's golden age, sharing knowledge of free energy, advanced construction, and esoteric sciences. Conversely, the destruction of Tartaria is also sometimes attributed to hostile extraterrestrial forces, a cosmic war that spilled over onto Earth, or a deliberate intervention to prevent humanity from reaching a certain level of advancement. The whole behind the reset, in this view, might not be entirely human, but part of a larger galactic game or maybe a conflict. The moon as an artificial construct. The moon, our constant celestial companion, is often taken for granted. However, within some fringe theories, including those that intersect with Tartaria, the moon is not what it seems. Some propose the moon is an artificial satellite, hollow, or even a giant spacecraft, placed in its precise orbit by an advanced intelligence, perhaps the same intelligence connected to Tartaria's rise or fall. Its purpose could be manifold: a surveillance station, a beam projector influencing Earth's climate or human consciousness, or even a soul catcher or broadcasting station for the simulated reality we discussed earlier. If Tartaria understood the true nature of the moon, and if that nature is indeed artificial and potentially manipulative, then its suppression would be paramount for any force wishing to control Earth and its inhabitants. Flat Earth theory, while often considered separate, the Flat Earth theory sometimes intersects with the Tartaria narrative in these deeper layers. Proponents of this combined view suggest that the grand deception isn't just about lost history, but about the very shape and nature of our world. They might argue that the Tartarian civilization knew the Earth was a flat plane, perhaps with additional lands or realms beyond the Antarctic ice wall, and that the globe model is part of the deception to limit our understanding and prevent us from exploring these hidden territories. The suppression of Tartaria, in this context, becomes part of a larger effort to conceal the true cosmology of our world and our potential place within it, keeping humanity confined to a limited, spherical prison, unaware of the vastness that might lie beyond. The soul trap. If Tartaria represented a state of higher consciousness or spiritual freedom, what happened to the souls of its inhabitants here? And what is the nature of our souls now? Some theories in the abyss propose that after the fall of Tartaria, a soul trap mechanism was implemented. This idea suggests that the reincarnation cycle itself, or at least our current experience of it, is a form of control upon death. Souls are lured towards a false light, have their memories wiped, and are then reincarnated back onto Earth, into the controlled system, to continue generating energy like Loosh, which we'll touch on in Tier 9 for unseen controllers. Escaping this cycle, or awakening to its existence, becomes a primary goal. Tartaria, in this light, might have represented a time when souls understood their true nature and were not subject to this manipulative reincarnation process. True nature of the sun, just as the nature of the earth and moon are questioned, so too are the sun, stars, and the very sky above us in some Tartarian-aligned theories, instead of a vast heliocentric solar system in an infinite universe. Some propose that Tartarians understood a different cosmology, perhaps one where the earth is enclosed by a physical firmament or dome, with the sun, moon, and stars being much closer, smaller, and perhaps even artificial or energetic phenomena within this enclosed system. This ties into flat earth theories, but can also exist independently, suggesting that our understanding of the cosmos is fundamentally flawed, part of the grand deception designed to make us feel small, insignificant, and disconnected from the true workings of our immediate celestial environment, which Tartarians might have known and even utilized. The Loosh energy harvesting theory, building upon the idea of a parasitic elite or archontic control, popularized by figures like Robert Monroe in his out-of-body experience accounts, posits that certain non-physical entities feed off strong emotional energy generated by sentient beings, particularly humans. In this framework, the current world system, with its constant promotion of fear, conflict, drama, and intense, often negative, emotional experiences, is deliberately designed to maximize the production of this Loosh. This emotional food source for unseen controllers, Tartaria, in this context might have represented a civilization that understood this dynamic and sought to create a society based on harmony, joy, and higher vibrational states, thereby starving these entities. Its destruction and the subsequent creation of our current turmoil-filled world would then be a strategy to re-establish and maximize this energy harvest. Breaking free from the illusion, if our reality is a simulation, a soul trap, or an energy farm, then the ultimate purpose for humanity, according to many of these deep theories, is to awaken to this truth and to break free. This isn't just about uncovering historical truths about Tartaria, but about achieving a profound shift in consciousness, recognizing the illusory nature of the perceived reality, and reclaiming one's sovereignty as a spiritual being. Tartaria then serves as a symbol of what was lost, a reminder of a higher state of being and freedom that humanity is capable of, and its story becomes a catalyst for individuals to seek their own liberation from the present planet, to cease being cogs in the machine or food for unseen masters. The concept of a cyclical cataclysmic universe. Is the story of Tartaria's rise and fall unique, or is it part of a much larger, cosmic pattern of cyclical creation and destruction? Many ancient cultures and esoteric traditions speak of world ages, yugas, or recurring cataclysms that wipe the slate clean, allowing for new civilizations to arise. In this view, Tartaria is but one iteration in an endless cycle. The resets are not necessarily orchestrated by malevolent entities alone, but could be part of a natural cosmic process, or a divine plan for the evolution of consciousness through repeated experience. This perspective can offer a sense of detachment from the specifics of any one lost civilization, seeing it instead as a recurring theme in the universe's grand drama. The challenge then becomes understanding the nature of these cycles, and perhaps how to transcend them or navigate them with wisdom. The true human potential and spiritual evolution suppressed by the reset. If Tartaria represented a higher state of civilization, What does that imply about the inherent potential of humanity? Theories at this depth suggest that humans are capable of far more than we are currently led to believe. God-like creative abilities, profound psychic powers, direct communion with the cosmos, and a state of enlightened consciousness. The reset and the subsequent control system are seen as deliberately designed to suppress this true human potential, to keep us spiritually stunted, focused on material survival and distractions, and unaware of our own divine nature. The rediscovery of Tartaria, or the idea of it, then becomes a call to reclaim this lost heritage, to remember who we truly are, and to strive for the full realization of our spiritual and creative capacities, breaking the shackles of limitation. The ultimate purpose behind the historical reset. Is it a spiritual war, a cosmic game, a divine plan, or a quarantine? This is the ultimate question, the why. The motivations attributed to the forces behind the reset are varied and profound. Is it a spiritual war between forces of light and darkness for the souls of humanity? Is our reality a complex game or experiment run by higher intelligences? Is it all part of a grand, divine plan for cosmic evolution, where even suffering and deception serve a higher purpose? Or is Earth a quarantine planet, its true history and connections deliberately severed for reasons we cannot yet comprehend? There are no easy answers here, only profound contemplation. The theories at this depth suggest that the story of Tartaria and our own existence are interwoven with the deepest mysteries of creation and consciousness. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for your time. If there are any icebergs you'd like me to dive into for a future video, let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely check them out. See you in the next video.